Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm Max Isaac, Member Services Manager at the Charles River Regional Chamber, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Preventing Burnout Strategies for Every Professional, with our presenter, Nanette Fridman, founder of the Effect Collective. Before we get started, I want to give a special shout out to our nonprofit series sponsors, Eastern Bank, In-Source Services, and the Village Bank. Without further ado, Nanette, thank you for being here again. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you so much for all you guys have been doing. And really, when I get your emails, I'm always like, wait, let me check my calendar. Can I go to that? Like, there's just so many good activities going on. So thank you for all you're doing for us. I really appreciate it. I am really happy to be back and talking today about a very, very important topic. I hope that everyone had a great summer. I was just sharing that I asked someone the other day how their summer was, and they said summer doesn't end until September 21st. So maybe that's what we should all adopt as our motto. Maybe I'll just say, I hope that you continue to have a good summer. Look, we're going to talk about preventing burnout this morning. For those of you that I've learned with before, you know that I love me an action-packed slide. The reason why is because I want you to go away and think about what we just talked about. And I want you to go back and this is a train the trainer model. I want you to take the slides and share them with your organization, the people you work with. I want you to share them with the people that you love, that you want to have take care of themselves. So this is very intentional. It's intentional that you don't need to pay attention to the slides right now. You can just listen and hopefully participate. But we're going to send these out for you. You're going to have these afterwards, and they're jam-packed on purpose. If I just put a picture there, you're not going to remember what it says. So I may fail consulting business 101, but I'm here to help you, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, so in our little bit of time together this morning, we're going to understand the signs and causes of burnout. We're going to learn realistic ways to personally build resilience, recharge, and stay energized. We're going to develop actionable strategies to radically prioritize your work when juggling competing priorities. We're going to talk about how to help your team thrive, and we're going to build a personal, sustainable work routine, or at least start to do so. You ready? Can I get a thumbs up and a hey, hey? All right, let's go. All right, in the chat, some of you already introduced yourself, but if you didn't already, tell me your name, tell me your title, but really, like, it's early September and you turned the calendar from August to September and you looked at all you have to do. How's it going, really? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling tired but pushing through? You're holding it together? Or are you cool as a cuke, energized and in control? Tell me in the chat where you're at. I just want to know. I'm taking a temperature here. I want to check on your battery because this is holding it down. All right, Sunny. I like it. I like it. We'll take it. We'll take it. Tell me where you're at. And actually, I'm joking about this, but I do think it's important to check in with ourselves. So tell us, introduce yourself and tell us where you're at in the chat, because I do think that being cognizant of how we're feeling is the beginning of this conversation. So I encourage you to do so. I encourage you to check in with yourself, and please do introduce yourself in the chat. Hi, Maggie. You're very stressed, but excited to learn today. All right, we'll take that and deep breaths. David's tired, but pushing through, on the cusp of overwhelmed. All right, well, we're gonna give you some tools, so hopefully we won't get over the cusp there. How's that? Keep adding into there, but because I only get an hour, hey, Kelly, you're trying to radically prioritize. Kelly is the best. She's my business partner. Erica, holding it, anticipating a busy season. Yes, a lot of us are in that anticipatory phase right now. So let us jump in. I want to say hi to all of you. Tiffany, hi. It was a tough week. You're trying to reprioritize. I got it. All right. I will want to talk to all of you, so I'm pushing myself on here. I want to talk a little bit because we use different words, right? We say we're stressed, we're burnt out, and often people will use them interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. And I think language matters. So I want to be really clear that stress is when we're like overengaged. It's when we can be almost like anxious or hyperactive. And burnout is disengagement. It's when emotions are almost blunted, when the demeanor is one of depression or detachment, helplessness or hopelessness. So people feel stressed at different parts during the day. My aura ring tells me when I'm stressed, and I'm stressed a lot of the day, and then I recover. That's normal, right? To feel that. What we want to be on the lookout for is when that's too much stress, but also when the stress changes to burnout. That's when you're really in trouble. Um, Burnout does not happen overnight. I'm here to tell you that this is not something that happens overnight. It really happens when you're under stress for long periods, when you feel depleted and there's nothing replenishing you. So you can have a lot of stress, but if you're replenishing and managing it, you can do it. Burnout is this mental fatigue that you feel, and it's really important to really be able to spot it, especially if you're a manager and for people that you have working with you and for you, because once you're already over the line, it's harder to pull someone back. So some of the practices we're going to talk about today, I want them for you and I want them for the people that work with and for you, because it's much easier to prevent than to pull people back from burnout. And that's really the big take home message here of why this has become one of our most popular offerings for staff, much to the surprise of Kelly and myself, to be quite honest with you. Okay, let's talk about burnout causes. Ignoring the non-negotiables, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute. Lack of clarity. You're spending all this energy not clear about what you're supposed to be doing. Unrealistic workloads, right? Lack of boundaries. We all need them. And poor prioritization. Now, when we do this live with folks, like in an office or an organization, we'll ask people to write down and kind of score on these as just like to take a minute. So if you do this with your own team, you may want to do that. But these are kind of the causes of burnout, and we're going to talk about them. Let's talk about the non-negotiables. You are in the middle circle there, and sleep, nutrition, exercise, and activities that fuel you are non-negotiables. Really, it's very important. Like, it's easy to be like, oh, I'll skip the gym today, or I'm just going to have a shake and that'll get me through to the end of the day, or you know what, I can do it on 5 hours. Here's the thing, it's like a bank. Like, you want to keep putting into the bank so you can withdraw when you need it, but you can't constantly be withdrawing from the bank. And these non-negotiables, I mean, this sounds like pretty basic, but you'd be shocked that when we really dig in here, how many people are not starting from a place of good sleep, good nutrition, regular exercise, and activities that fuel them. So this is our starting point, okay? Non-negotiables. Once we really dive then from there and we talk about resilience at an individual level, resilience is more than just the non-negotiables. It's about autonomy. You have control. It's about opportunity in your job for excellence. You're learning, you're growing. It's about meaning or purpose or something connection with greater than yourself. It could be inside of work or outside of work. It may be your faith, it may be a team, it may be your family, it may be your work. It's about emotional intelligence, recognizing your emotions and processing them. And it's about the healthy habits, many of which I alluded to before. But these things build resilience, which allows stress, which is part of all of our lives, and prevents burnout. If we don't have these, we're more susceptible to burning out. And that's really, really important for everyone to hear. We've talked to a lot of people about this, and we've done a lot of research, and we think there are some things that the people who don't get burnt out but have stressful jobs do in common. And one of them is being deliberate in how they plan and prepare for their day. It's doing something grounding in the morning for yourself, whether that's meditation, whether that's coffee with your spouse, whether that's reading for a few minutes, whatever that is. It's figuring out the time when you're most productive. I am very much a morning person, and I need to be in my bed by 9:30 at night. Do not call me after 9:30, but if you want to have a call at 4 a.m., I'm your gal. 4 a.m., reach out, but do not bother me after 9, okay? You need to know that about yourself, and your staff need to know that about them. You want to block time for deep and shallow work. It is very, very important that we time block. Our brains are not meant to switch back and forth. Email, phone, write, email, phone, answer the door, email, phone, write. We're not made for that. That is not the way our brains, and it causes actual damage. You need to block time to do deep work, and calendar blocking can be 25-minute blocks, 45-minute blocks, 75-minute blocks. You really can't do anything more than 75 minutes, maybe 90 if you're a superstar. But you really want to block your calendar. Do not check your email. Do not answer the phone. Close your door and do the work that you blocked for. Similarly, you should block time for shallow work. When do you check email? When do you return calls? But by blocking, you're really protecting your brain and yourself. Bookend your day. When we plan our day, we want to do things in the morning that I'm describing now, and then we want to do things at the end of the day that help us with the shutdown. I'm going to tell you about that, but you want to bookend. You want to bookend your day. And that really means that your day should have a start and a finish. It shouldn't just bleed right into the time you fall asleep on the pillow. You're sending that last text or that last email. You really should have a start and a finish. Another thing which we're going to talk about is radical prioritization. And I'm going to say more about that in a minute. But really, these are things that you can do being deliberate and planning your day that make a huge difference. And when we interview people, CEOs, CDOs, CFOs, and everyone in between, middle managers who have so much stress, people on the front lines, these are the people that do the best, people who take time and plan and do this, okay? Let me tell you a little bit about the shutdown ritual. Just like I want you to plan your day, at the end of the day, I want you to review what you completed today. I want you to think about what you didn't finish, and I want you to put that down for the list for tomorrow, or in a notebook, or in a list. I don't want you just to think about it, because when we just think about it, we add to our stress. When we write it down and we put it somewhere, we offload it, right? It doesn't mean it's done. It just means that we don't have to think about it. And if any of you process while you sleep, you'll notice that when you don't write it down, you might dream about it, or you might constantly be waking up thinking about it. I want you to look at tomorrow's calendar and meetings before you shut down for the day so you can know what's coming, what you need to do. I want you to identify your top 1 to 3 priorities for the next day. That will help you start the day not having to figure out, wait a minute, what's the high value item I need to do today? I want you to close your tabs, tidy your workspace. If you're like me, that means throw away your Coke Zero, get rid of your water bottles, eat that banana that was next to your desk since half the day. Clean space, clean mind. And I want you to do something small and deliberate to shift out of work mode, like shutting physically your laptop or your notebook if you work at home. Or if you go from the home to the office, where do you leave your bag? Where do you put your things? Something that is deliberate and really signals the end of the day to you. I did this with a group the other day, and they said, does pouring a stiff drink count? And I said, if that's what deliberates the day for you, then I'm not here to judge. But if it's a problem, talk to someone about that. But we all need psychological closure. And that's something that's really important. You cannot be on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So planning the day and shutting down, that's what people who have high stress jobs really are really able to do. And I will tell you that Tiffany's saying she's guilty of dreaming about work. You got to write it down, empty that head before you go to sleep. If you do nothing else today, then these 2 things, I bet you're going to see a big difference, but you'll let me know. Okay, but we're not done. I said clarity and realistic workloads. If you don't have a job description that actually matches the job you're supposed to do and clear expectations of your job, you're going to be stressed because you don't know when you've done it. You don't know. So you need that. So if you don't have a job description and clear expectations, speak to whomever you work with and for. And if you are someone that supervises people, make sure all of your people have clarity of their job description and expectations. Fun fact, it may not be the job description that you used to hire them. Things change over time, right? That causes people a lot of stress. What is my actual job? Where are the lines of that, right? Similarly, can you do your job, right? Someone said, wow, you're great. We're going to give you more to do. Now you're sitting there being like, I can't do these things. I'm not trained for this. Remember when the reward for work well done is more work. So yay for all the people who got A's and are achievers here. Yay, I see you. And it's okay to say, you know what? All of a sudden you put me in charge of X, Y, or Z. I need training for that. I need a coach for that. I need time to get up to speed with that. The ability to do our task when there's a mismatch or a misalignment causes us a lot of stress and can lead to burnout. Realistic deadlines. Friends, it is okay to push back when your boss, when a team member, for yourself and be like, is this a real deadline? Or is this a deadline so you can have it 6 weeks in advance so you can do X, Y, or Z with it? Like, you need to have realistic deadlines to get the work done in the time that type of work will take. So don't feel like you can't negotiate those. That type of clarity really can really help manage your stress and ultimately prevent burnout. Take help as necessary. It is not a sign of weakness, right? Asking a colleague, getting help. And friends, all this talk about AI, use it. Tools like AI, project manager software, figure out what you need to manage your workload and to help you. That is what the key is. Every single person is different. There is no one size fits all on preventing burnout. It's really very individual what your non-negotiables are, what your prioritization is going to look like, and really what tools you will feel comfortable and want to use. If you don't already use tools like AI or project manager software and you want to explore those, that's something I would definitely, maybe even the chamber will do another session. I know they've done one in the past about that. Okay, boundaries. We're working through our list here of preventing burnout. Boundaries. Know your boundaries. And then I want you to say, I have this boundary, but it's hard to maintain. I don't check email after 7 p.m. That is a boundary that I would like to say that I have. It's really hard to maintain. And many of you on this call have gotten emails from me in the middle of the night. So I'm obviously not maintaining that boundary. It's hard because you think of something, you just want to get it done. What are some actions I can take to improve this boundary, right? Well, I could not look at my phone when I wake up in the middle of the night. That would be helpful. Um, and also, what happens when you stop responding at 8 a.m., at 8 p.m., but your boss is online until 10, right? How can you respond and manage the boundaries that you want to set and enforce them? And how can you talk about them? I got an email the other day from someone that said, if you've received this email, it's after my work hours and I'll be back in the office at 8 a.m. It was only 7 p.m. at night. I thought, good for you. Maybe other people should be setting that up so we manage the expectations. But whatever the boundary is that's hard for you to maintain, you got to kind of figure out, is this a real boundary? Is this important to you? And what am I going to do to improve it? And whether that's being home to eat dinner with someone, or whether that's not checking your email after a certain time, or whether that's, carving out Saturday and Sunday, or whatever that is, you've got to kind of think about how are you going to do better. We're not perfect, do better at maintaining that boundary. And this again is a great slide to talk about in a staff meeting. This is really made for you to talk about in your staff, with your staff, because we really hear what we believe is that if one person on the team is burnt out, I worry that it spreads. So I don't think just saving ourselves on this is the answer. I think we really think about, because we're good people, also our teams as well. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of the things, and now we get to radical prioritization, focusing on tasks that provide the highest value. So we all have a lot on our plate. Some things are internal for work, some things are external, some of us are client facing, some of us do stuff that the rest of our team relies on. There are things, though, that are more important than others. Not everything can be equally important. And when a client tells me in a coaching relationship, there is nothing on my plate that I can get rid of, everything is equally important, then we have clarity problems. Then we have expectations problems or a workload problem, if that's the case, right? Focus on the tasks that provide the highest value. Now, we don't have to invent a way to do this. Eisenhower came up with the Eisenhower matrix to do this. And I really think this is the burnout to breakthrough prioritization matrix, in addition to being the Eisenhower matrix. I think this is so smart, and it's so simple. But if you think about work in terms of what's important and urgent, well, we've got to do that now. And then we think about work that's important but not urgent. Well, how are we going to plan for that and prioritize? Then we think about work that's not important but urgent. right? How do we delegate or automate? And then work that's not important and not urgent, how do we just eliminate it or minimize it? And honestly, this is really the key long term. You can do all the other things. You can take a run in the morning, you can put your laptop at the door, you can do all of this. But in addition, long term, mastering this is really the key, because this really also separates your ability to rise in position. It really separates the people that can know where the prioritization is. It's about judgment, it's about practice, and it's about getting comfortable not doing everything. It's hard. If you got all A's in school, this is going to be a challenge for you. If you never turned in anything tardy, this is not for you. But you've got to get good at this muscle, because this is very important. And let me just break this down. And again, I'm not going to go deep into this because I'm going to send you the slides. But the way you start to use this is you list all your current tasks or projects you're working on or are coming down the pipeline. And then I want you to take each task and place it in one of the 4 quadrants based on its urgency and its importance. And then I want you to prioritize. I want you to focus on the quadrant 1 task immediately. I want you to schedule in your calendar. What gets scheduled gets done. I have never met anyone that didn't schedule something that just it automatically got done. Put it in your written calendar, put it in your Google Calendar, put it in your Outlook, put it on your phone, schedule it, right? For the quadrant 2 task. That's where we're going to block out time, work blocks to do that work. Quadrant 3 task, we're going to figure out to whom we're delegating. My English teacher would be so proud. To whom we're going to delegate. And quadrant 4, how are we going to get rid of these or minimize them? And this is really hard to do. This step right here, to really get everything in and to be very honest about it, and put them in the right quadrant. Sometimes you might have to consult with other people you work with. Do you think this is a priority? Because you will have gotten a list. These are our first quarter priorities, our third quarter priorities, but that list was generated like 2 quarters before. So like, is that still the priority? What else has shifted? Things are constantly changing and evolving. So might want to check in with folks to make sure and do a little spot check on this. Once you take the do now list, right, that require immediate, you got to look at these and say, okay, are these crisis driven? What's going on around us? Or are they deadline focused? Kind of understand it, right? And then these are the things that you have to sometimes clear the deck for, and that's okay. You should feel comfortable doing that as long as you've correctly characterized them out as both urgent and important, and that deadline is a real deadline with a meaning behind it that you understand and that you've confirmed, right? Very important. When you think about things that you can plan and prioritize, these are often longer term goals, but they don't need immediate attention. And if you need to have strategic thinking, time, or things like that, this is where we really want to make sure maybe you work from home one day and you don't have as much noise, but this is what you're working on. Or maybe you're blocking, regular time. This is my writing time or my thinking time. Or maybe it's relationship building that you need to be doing for your long-term goals. So it's time out of the office, or time sending emails or making calls or learning opportunities. Whatever it is, these are things that we schedule before they become urgent. When we think about things that go in our 3rd quadrant of delegating and automating, this is often routine things like emails, non-essential meetings, minor requests. I want to tell you something. If you're invited to a lot of meetings, I want you to think about which ones you need to be at. Do you need to be at it? Are there going to be notes taken that you could get after? Can someone else on your team go? Is someone else already going that could share with you what happened? Not every meeting is created equal. And a lot of people, when they start asking questions about the meetings, more and more things move into this delegate and automate box here, right? And I think that there's a lot of room for that. A lot of clients we work with, we're taking meetings way down. A meeting used to be 60 minutes. Let's try it at 45. You can get it done in 45. Can you get it done in 30? Most meetings fill the amount of time that we give them. And I don't know who made up this hour rule, but it doesn't have to be an hour. So if you have a check-in meeting, can it go down 15 minutes to buy back 15 minutes? Then everyone can check their email before they go on to the next task. Or you just have 15 minutes to get to know each other better, which is certainly time well spent as well. But these items here that if you can't delegate, can you automate? Can you sort out your inbox? A lot of people will tell me, wow, the best investment of time I made is sorting through my inbox so things go to automatic folders. Those newsletters that you have to look at, but you don't really ever read, you still want to get them in case you need them, send them to an automatic folder. You want to know whose email you really have to read, place anything from them with an exclamation point, a high alert. Right? There are ways that we can help ourselves so we can get through with more ease. Okay. I do want to just say briefly about AI. Kelly Siegel, who's my business partner, is on. She is our AI certified expert. But we are finding more and more ways to automate every single day. And I hope you are diving deep into this as well, whether it's ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Cloud, any of these other things. These really are, with the right policies in place for your organization, protecting privacy and a real clear use of what's appropriate. These really are where delegating and automating, not even to a human, can really come into play. And if you're not using these or you're not up on these, this is a must. This is not a nice to have for 2025 and beyond. This is a must. So I strongly encourage you to get up to speed, and whatever that takes. Maybe there's someone in your organization who is, or maybe you need external help with that, but it's really important because you can get a lot of time back when you have Gemini embedded or ChatGPT helping you write those emails, or you have, doing some research. Of course, you're checking it because it's fallible, but you want to use these. Okay. And finally, for 4, things that provide little value or time wasters. I'm very sorry to tell you this because I do love me a little Instagram and social media, but social media scrolling, non-talk brainstorming, non-strategic task, you got to limit these or get rid of them. They really don't, unless that's your job, is to be the social media manager. Maybe that's something that you do 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at the end of the day, but constantly through the day is sucking your time. I don't know if you guys have seen that you can track your phone usage and you can put locks on your phone. That's also some people have tried, or they're little phone jails now. We have a client that has a phone jail, and when you walk into a meeting, everyone puts their phone in the phone jail. So we have everyone's focus and we can spend less time on it. I found that really interesting. We're addicted, friends. We're all addicted to our cell phones. It's not a fault here. Okay, so I think one thing I'd love for you to talk about and think about is really, where are the barriers to radical prioritization for you? So is it that you don't know what the priorities are yourself and you've got to have conversations? Is it you have too much that truly is urgent? Is it that you really don't know how to use the tools so you could delegate, or who you could delegate, to whom you could delegate? I think one thing that you need to think about, each of you, is what are the barriers to radical prioritization, and identify those. Once you identify those, then what I think you can do is address who needs to help you with your matrix, perhaps, right? Like, what else needs to be in place for you to be able to do that? So I'm just curious, I want to pause here for a second. Is anyone brave enough in the chat to share what is a barrier for you to doing radical prioritization? Just curious what might be getting in the way as people think about going through this exercise. What might be preventing you from doing this? Because I do hear from people all the time, wow, that sounds great, but I don't even know how to approach this because it feels like everything is urgent. I'm not sure. It feels like there's no one to delegate to. I'm in a small shop, right? So whatever your barrier is, I encourage you to really think about that, and not just to think about it for yourself, because one of the things that we also want to do is think about it for our teams. Uh, some of us work alone, but most of us work in teams. And whether those are teams of colleagues within our organization, external people, customers, people that we work with as consultants, people we work with who are volunteers. These are all teams. And I think the more that we can understand this ourselves, we can help our team. Tiffany says, putting a lot of pressure on myself, thinking I can do it all. That has always been my barrier to delegate and ask for help. So, one thing I would say to you, Tiffany, and thanks for putting that in, is that I think that's a culture thing in an organization. Your organizational culture should be where we want to reward people for delegating and asking for help. And if we're a leader, we want to model that so other people delegate and ask for help. So if that's an area that's really hard for you, and it's hard for a lot of people, I think it's something to think about. Is that because of the culture in the organization? Is that because of your own internal thinking? And how can you talk about that with the people you work with and for, to kind of say, look, this is something I'm trying to get better at, radically prioritizing my work. I would like to delegate or ask for more help. And this is something I want to talk about, because that will be the first step of that, because I think we have to unlearn, right? Either because of the self-talk we have or because of our environment, but it will be better for everybody. But thanks for sharing that. Maggie says, incorporate everything as urgent. So being more aware of what actual importance is and prioritizing what is time sensitive. Yes, everything feels urgent. And I think asking why questions, right? Someone comes to you and says, this is urgent. Can you say a little bit more? Why is that, right? Well, the client's waiting for it and we promised them by 4 p.m. today. Oh, okay. Or it's urgent because so-and-so said that they want it. Okay, well, you've also given me these other three things. So can you help me prioritize which one of these is the most urgent, right? Which one of these, because even within the pool of urgency, there has to be prioritization. And when there's not, people start spinning and they burn out. So I think whether cultures use urgent a lot, right, then we have to get clarity on that. Maggie, you're not an ER surgeon, Yes, thank you. I love that. Erica says, disciplining myself to time block and follow through. Or for example, scheduling a certain task or check-in. Wait a minute. On a topic every month or week. The follow through. So it's not the blocking, it's the actual follow through. So are you turning off your email so you don't hear it ding? Are you turning off your phone? Are you closing your door? And are you giving yourself enough time right before and right after so you're kind of like going into that space clear? I would absolutely try those things, because if you can honor the time blocking, and that can be a boundary which you enforce, I think you'll really unlock something for yourself. It might be less block times, but when you see them, really honoring them and kind of rewarding yourself afterwards. So please try to do that. Sunny says, I think it's the dance of leadership and staff. I feel like my staff freeze and I don't know it is an issue which has led to the house on fire. I'm trying to put this back in a good workflow, but man, it's hard. There's a break of trust all the way around. Yes. So Sunny, thanks for sharing that. I think there is this kind of, when there has been a lot of urgency, or there's been a lot of, we got to go, 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 because you have a summer season, or whatever the reason is, there's just a lot of work. I think we're all on adrenaline. And it's like, okay, how can we collectively take a deep breath and make the break to say, we want to operate in a more deliberate way? Maybe this is what happened and we understand the reasons why, but right now as a team, we don't want to burn out. And so we're going to do some of these things that we're talking about today, and everyone's going to make a commitment to doing some of those things in order to prevent it, because that's the good of the organization, right? So I think naming this and talking about this is the first step. The second step as a leader, and this is the dance of leadership, is when we're saying to people, we need to do this, this, and this, and this, are we offering prioritization? If you do one thing this week, this is what it is. If this doesn't get done, that's okay. I'll go back and renegotiate with so-and-so who's waiting for it. But that is the role of leadership. We've got to kind of protect our teams, because if we don't protect our team, we're the ones that deal with the burnout, both for ourselves and our team. So leaders, one of the responsibilities of leadership, look, personal resilience is a personal responsibility. It is not your job to make sure people eat well, sleep well, exercise, have something they do in the morning, shut their laptop at night. That is personal responsibility. What is your job as the boss, as the team leader, as the manager, is to make sure that the workloads are both reasonable, sustainable, and accurate. Okay. Reasonable, the number of people on the team or the people can do it, right? Sustainable, they can do it at this pace for a sustained period of time or with ebbs and flows and recovery time. And they're realistic and rational because does this make sense, right? Maybe you need more people on your team. Maybe you need to do less. But if you can't get it down, and people are constantly feeling that, that's a leadership issue, right? That's a leadership issue. We need more people, or we need different people with different skill sets, or we need more help in some way, or maybe we need to put more tools in place, right? But it's really hard. And building that trust, though, is back. And what I really want you to do is talk about it. All right. Thank you guys for sharing. So this preventing burnout at the team level, as I started to say, this is really about modeling this, setting realistic standards, having that role clarity, giving meaningful feedback. When people don't know if they're doing a good job or doing the right things, it creates stress. Meaningful feedback is part of preventing burnout culture. It is fascinating to me that people are like, well, we do a yearly review. A yearly review? No, we need regular, consistent, meaningful feedback. I don't know who designed the yearly review. Probably the same person that designed the hour meeting. Like most people are in jobs for 24 months. So if you have a yearly review, you've had one review. I mean, we need meaningful feedback. That is part of fueling people. That is part of giving people the feeling that they're growing and they're excellent and they're meaning. That is part of your responsibility. Professional development. People stay in jobs where they learn. People don't burn out when they feel like they're growing. What people burn out is doing the same thing when it's unrealistic and there's no growth. And support. Wow, my team all told me this. I'm going to invest in software, project management software. My team all told me this. We're taking Fridays off this month. My team all told me this. I'm bringing in a nutritionist to talk about how we can, eat better during the busy season. I'm making this up, but like whatever it is, support, whatever that looks like. Preventing burnout at the team level, it is a responsibility. Again, the personal responsibility is on the autonomy of the person to build their own resilience and the non-negotiables. But at the team level, it is part of leadership. Okay. You can help your team thrive. There are key signals of a sustainable team culture that we look for. And in addition to those clear priorities and reasonable workloads, communicate, communicate, communicate. Silence adds to stress. Silence adds to stress. Regular check-ins, providing your team with as much autonomy and flexibility as possible. I could do a whole session about why returning to the office 5 days a week, the science isn't in its favor. Okay. But okay, no one asked me, so I'm not going to talk about that today. Leaders modeling boundaries. If you don't have boundaries yourself, but you're telling people you need to make boundaries, people do as they see. You have to model it. You want to encourage recovery. It's not that they have to earn it; it's that they have to do it on a regular basis. That they are encouraging them to take time to do whatever they need to recover, and really be mindful of what you're modeling, because the team is the ultimate investment, right? Well, for all of us, corporate, nonprofit, it doesn't matter. In the volunteer space, your team is really what we all have at the end of the day. Really from a mindset point of view, and I hope that this has been clear, that burnout isn't a personal failure, it's often a system failure. And the sustainable work starts with realistic priorities and boundaries, small changes like shutdown rituals and time blocking that you actually do, right? Time blocking that you honor really can make a difference. And radical prioritization is a mindset. It's very hard not to focus on what's the loudest or what the most important person tells us, right? And we really have to get better at that. We really have to not just be able to kind of check it ourselves, but be able to say, wow, just because the boss told me, or the board chair told me, or our corporate partner told me, then I'm going to have to drive the team to it. Where is their negotiation? Where can we use the trust and the goodwill and the work to kind of talk about this and competing priorities? We really have to do that, right? Okay, so if you believe what I just told you to be true, which I hope you do, because it is, I would encourage you to kind of let it marinate with your team, and then really put an eye to building a sustainable work routine to prevent burnout. Preventing burnout is so much easier than solving it once the person's burnt out. And, when people ask us to come in and do these trainings, and we do this in coaching with folks, we always say to people, this was such a smart investment, because when we see it on the other end, now we're talking about short-term leave, we're talking about sabbaticals, we're talking about quiet quitting, we're talking about actual quitting. Right. So if you don't want to bring us in to talk about sabbaticals, being on leave, quiet quitting, and actual quitting, or not being able to retention in general, then let's fix it, right? And let's do this, and let's make this, what we know to be true, and the culture that we build here. So I think these are the key questions. What does a sustainable work day or week look like? Obviously, there's going to be ebbs and flows. What changes might you make to your daily routine to manage your stress and build resilience? This is again the work on the personal. How will you build time for recovery and rest, which are essential to high performance? And again, that's going to look different for everybody. Um, which practices might you employ? Regular check-ins with managers, planning for deadlines, reinforcing boundaries, prioritization reviews, utilizing AI. What aren't you doing that you might add in? And again, remembering my favorite saying, well, I have two: be intentional, and remember what gets scheduled gets done. So task batching. Checking your email constantly is not a good use of time. Checking email altogether is. Calling donors, calling the people that you're calling on for service calls, customer calls, doing them one off, not ideal. Doing them in blocks. Also, you get in flow, you get into a rhythm. Okay. You want to block things, whether it's for your time or to get into the task. So before I open it up for questions, which I really want to make sure that I leave time to do, please play along with me. You've been really great, and I appreciate all the sharing in the chat. What is one thing you're going to try this week? Something that I talked about that we're going to do. One thing. If you don't commit, you're not going to do it. So say it out loud. Say it here with your chamber friends. Something you're going to do. All right. A shutdown ritual. Thank you. Reorganize your calendar. Thank you. What else are you going to do this week? One thing. Say it. Shutdown ritual. I love it. What else are you going to do? Come on. I need more. Put the time blocks on the calendar. Delegate. Morning grounding. Block time. Yes. And play around with the time block. Some people try 75 minutes. It's too long. Delegate. Sunny, I'm going to hold you to that. Delegate. Delegate. Yes. Block time for deep work. Thank you, Larry. Reduce your 1-hour meetings, David. Start at 45 minutes. Let me know if that works. Shutdown ritual. Pomodoro method works well for blocking time. Yes. Thank you. Look, all of these are great things, and thank you for saying them. I want to stop now because I want to take your questions and I want to have a conversation. I get so excited about all of this that, like, I have so much I want to tell you that I'm like, oh my God, I have so much to tell them. I only have an hour. But now's our time. Like, I did it. I told you what I wanted to tell you. So now I want to hear, I really want you to like open this up and take your questions. What's on your mind about preventing burnout? What's on your mind about this as we really think about, Q3, Q4? For many organizations that are on a calendar year, this is, if you're not feeling it, you're about to. So I'd love to just open this up to take your questions, your comments. What didn't I talk about that I should have? What has worked well for you? So I'd love to just open the floor. Blair, my board is very helpful, but are volunteers with different daily schedules. Some communicate with me early in the day and some late at night. I feel like I can't set boundaries with them since they are putting in the work. What do you suggest? That's a great question, Blair. I think that you should get a link and that you should have them sign up for time on your calendar, Some days a week you should have morning hours, and some days a week you should have late so you can accommodate them, but you don't have to have it open all the time on both ends. So I tell people my Calendly link knows my calendar better than I do. I do not know my calendar. I cannot keep track of it. You have to sign up for time, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour or more. And so by forcing people to sign up for time with you that way instead of email, they're going to your calendar to make that. And you can leave morning blocks or evening blocks, but they don't have to be every day open. And so they can fit into that. So I would try that. The second thing I would say is ask them, what's their work schedule? Is this because of work or preference? And explain my late day is Wednesday. My early morning is Thursday. And maybe set up a recurring meeting for check-ins if they're important to you on an ongoing basis. And that way you don't have the stress of, are they going to want to talk to me while I'm trying to drop my kids off at school? Right? Remind me to tell you a funny story when I thought I was on mute in the car, dropping my kids off at school, and someone needed to talk to me, a client in the morning. Let's just say it wasn't the first F-bomb my kids heard. It wasn't the first F-bomb the client heard, but it was special and I'll never forget it. But I think really it's about, look, we have to manage both our own expectations and the people we work with, whether they're volunteers, customers, clients, it doesn't matter, or our peers. We're managing expectations, but for most of us, we don't have clear boundaries ourselves. And so when we start into these negotiations about our time, we end up just kind of trying to satisfy the other people. And then we end up running, as my mother would say, burning the candle at both ends. You're burning the candle at both ends of the day, Nanette. And I never really knew what that meant because I didn't light a candle. But okay, I guess that meant in the old days, I was burning the candle at both ends of the day. I'm going to look that up. But anyway, the point is, we've got to manage expectations. Other questions or comments? That's great. Thank you. The staff leadership convo. I need my oxygen mask on first and then can give it to the staff. I want to do this for me and for them. Can we do a job description review before the end of the year? Great question. As part of regular reviews, I often like to include people's job description and say, does this accurately reflect the work that you are doing and the work that you anticipate doing? Can we talk about this as part of setting goals? Because remember, when you're doing the reviews, you're also setting goals for the next year. I'm not sure how you can set goals for the next year on a stale job description, right? So I think that's right. Exactly right, Sunny. I think that's a perfect time to do it. And by the way, Sunny, and one more thing I would just add to that, not only, you don't have to do it at the end of the year or part of that. You can do that just as part of a good check-in. The job description, some of them are very detailed and some of them say, and all other roles as may be assigned. What I really want to know is what's in that bucket. Right? And is it permanent or is it just there? So we want to look for real shifts. What's been thrown in? Will that continue? Was it one off? And then I want to know, like, do you like these parts of your job? Can you do them? Do you need help to do them better? Not just what is it, but let's talk about it. I think that's right. Any other questions that I can answer before I'm going to get the boot here from my friends who want you to have work time? Questions, comments? Great. Well, I can't thank you enough for spending the morning starting talking about one of our favorite topics. Again, we really do believe in train the trainer. So please take this back and please use this with your own staffs, organizations, teams. We're here for you. So feel free to reach out. info@effect-collective.com. You can reach us and we're happy to answer any questions that you have about this. This really is not optional. I wish more people would understand that. And I really think you applaud you for taking the time to be on here today, because by doing so, I think it's an important first step. And I wish you good luck.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Nanette.
much.